Are you good? Johnson, I late. Summary somewhere. Are you ready?
All right, is this on? All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the community conversation on the 2026-2027 Town of Enfield budget. So this is going to run a little different than the public hearing. We would like this to sort of be more conversational, more back and forth. For anybody who's come to a town council meeting and you come and talk to us and we always tell you we can't answer you, that's not back and forth. We would kind of like tonight, if possible, if we have the answers, for this to be a back and forth. We are interested in your suggestions, your feedbacks, your questions, your comments. Understanding that the council was presented with the budget 2 nights ago, so we've all had around the same time to digest the information as you all. So there is no formal sign-up sheet, there is no formal time frame that you have to stick to regarding your questions, and if you have something specific, feel free. If it's directed to somebody specific, if they are willing, ready, and able to answer, I will hope they do that. But please understand, we may not have all of the answers if you have specific questions. But if we don't, we will write notes and get you that information. So, that's really all I had as far as an introduction. Ready to sort of dive right in. If anyone wants to go first, you are welcome to. And Matt Koppler, the town manager, has a mic for anybody who wants to sort of go first. So don't be shy, raise your hands. Oh, Ray, I knew you were going to do it. Yay.
Of course I would. First of all, good evening. Good evening. Before I get on, I just want to thank everyone for doing their public service here. All council members and every board of education members who are here. And even our town manager, Matt. Okay. Matt remembers me, but I don't know what's too fondly. Okay, what I want to address is, now that I'm on the retiree bandwagon, I retired last year, I'm concerned with fixed income folks. And you may not realize it, but not everyone has a 401k. A lot of folks in Hartford and surrounding areas were laid off in the 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, and they lost their 401ks and couldn't recover. That's an issue. So more and more people are relying on Social Security. So anyway, what I did was, I always do a spreadsheet together, and my current budget for taxes is $617 a month. With a $41 increase based on the information I have, I may be wrong, these are all approximations, I'm going to have to come up with $615 a month in order to meet my tax obligations, my property tax, my fire tax, my auto tax. What are we talking about tax? All right. If you take a look at it, break it down by month. My utilities cost $480 a month, and electricity. One of my friends told me that oil being around $5 a gallon, we got 200 gallons to $1,000 he had to pay for that. And I don't know how many times he had to refill in a year, but that's a big hit for seniors. Then we got hit with a $27 increase for our Medicare Part D, which brings us up to $200 a month premium per person. Utilities, we have I pay $86 a month for people who cannot pay their bills. But that don't frankly mean nothing more. Let's see. My groceries went up on average of $40 a week. And I budget $800 a month or $200 a week times $40 a month. I'm just absorbing it. Now that's a variable cost that I can manage. But not everybody can. And that's a concern. Gas went up $45 a week. And I budget $400 a month for that. What can I do? So my monthly expenses in the current thought process here is $239 a month increase, which brings me to all my expenses, $3,971. I'm fortunate to be able to cover that. Not everybody can. Not everybody can sit here and have cable and whatever. Save it going out. When you talk about a $41 a month increase based on almost $500 a year increase, that's going to actually take a little bit more than time. Whether you keep going on to the diner, or Figaro's, or Vitas, or some other place that you all like, that's going to impact, especially because most of those customers are, or patrons of those places are retirees. So I just, you all know how I feel when I go to public schools. It's almost sacrosanct for me. But we do have to be careful. We do have to make sure we're giving value to our children, supporting our teachers. And the other piece is, the thing that I've heard for the past 3 years is, it's for our kids. Nothing makes my stomach turn more than having that statement, because it's an obvious statement, number one. And two, we got to know value, what's working, what do we need to improve. And that often gets lost in the sauce. I know that from experience. There was other part of that. So those are my points. Last piece I want to say is, when I was an elected official, the public state of my government is public safety, education, and unfortunately everything's kind of tied together. But that's the way that I thought, and that's the way I continue to think. Just remember, you have more demographics, you have diverse demographics. You have parents, you have non-parents school children. And I think like I said, we can come together and just figure out how we can improve our schools and also get those value for the dollar in the process of it's kind of a controversial statement, but I just really felt this is considered just way too much. And one of the points I made a long time ago is teachers have to have an MBA, not a master's. In my profession, if you have a master's, you're starting about $150K to at least $260,000, depending on who you work for. But the other piece to that is revenue drives how much money you have for salaries. And teachers, police, fire, EMS, they don't do it for the money, they do it for passion. So again, I appreciate y'all listening, and just keep up with the work. You're doing a great job facilitating those meetings, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. One thing I didn't say is for any of the council members, feel free if you have a specific response or a specific question or comment on somebody from the audience, just feel free to take the mic. I don't need to have it. Anybody can take the mic.
Sure you do.
No, I definitely don't. But thank you, Ray. I really appreciate it. Anybody? Next.
Thank you. I was in this gym in 1961. We had a great science fair. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I've got hearing aids tonight. Okay. Thank you for that, Mrs. Prisoner. I was in this gym, and we had a great science fair. Enfield is falling behind in science. I happen to have worked in the manufacturing industry down in Fairfield County and up here in Massachusetts. Some of the products we made were the electronics for the night vision goggles, which now have been improved. The stealth aircraft, the fighters, which went from the company I was working for to Collins Aerospace, which used to be called Hamilton Standard and Hamilton so forth. And there's a lot of people like myself who know that the spacesuit was right there in Windsor Locks. We did not spend a lot of money for education because our parents or grandparents and so forth said after 6th grade, the burden is on you, student, to make it happen. And our reading levels, we didn't always pass the Lexile level that is set for the schools, but I think we need to do a better job on that. Then I went into education, physics, chemistry, environmental science, and biology. And I can say this, the towns that have more money than us, it isn't that they have more money. Some of these teachers are no smarter than or no stupider than ours. I think we need more transparency in our education. I think we need to know what the curriculum is. And by the way, I was a teacher in high school. High school, the rubber meets the road, not college. Because a lot of kids aren't going to college. A lot of our young people are going to divide off into various careers. The rubber meets the road. And if our elementary doesn't bring up that reading level, or our middle school doesn't help it along, when I go as a science teacher, and I don't know what's happening in Enfield High, and I say, write a science report, and they look at me, and that happened in one school system I was with. And I go, well, what happened in middle school? Well, we never wrote science reports. So I told my sophomores, well, you're going to write it now. It's that simple. I think we really need to look at our educational budget. As for the town itself, my grandparents were in Skiddyco, and my other grandparents in the 1900s were in Thompsonville. So I have all the history, rug making. We actually had digital equipment, which made computers, and they were bought out by HP. We could make computers today. So we're surrounded by high tech, which still has not left us in our small manufacturing shops. And I think we should acknowledge that for our students. There are plenty of careers around the state and the country in tech. They're going to have to get A's in, I went to Smeltec Manufacturing when I was 58 years old, and I got a degree in machining. And guess what? You need to get an A in algebra, an A in geometry, and an A in trigonometry. Our students should have all those courses. I don't care what level they're at now. Those are absolutely necessary. As for the budget, I was in industry, and I look at the numbers. I can point out all the numbers and so forth. But we really have to, I think, be creative. Because as I was telling the mayor here, the town council, there's the mayor, okay. The town manager, that he was here before. And we are a stop on the way to Vermont and to Boston and Maine for food and whatever. We are also, if you look in our parking lots, are servicing Long Meadow, East Long Meadow, Hamden, Massachusetts, Suffield, Stafford, Somers, East Granby, and I think we should get at least a 1 or 2% kickback on our sales tax to us and give the state 4 and let them misspend the money as they're doing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, it's Mr. Golis, right? Okay. Can I ask you a question back, if you don't mind? So you mentioned a couple of times more transparency in the Board of Education budget and Board of Education. So can you explain 1 or 2 sentences on what does that mean to you? Because when I look at the Board of Education and their budgeting and their process, besides the newsletters, besides the annual reports and the audits and the meetings and the subcommittee meetings and all of the things that get put out, and the fact that the curriculum comes from the state and then the state puts that information out and it's readily available, what are you looking for? What is not transparent, or what transparency are you looking for that you're not seeing?
Transparency in the committees and subcommittee meetings, because when you do the final presentation, the general public doesn't know. If you're a parent, you know the curriculum of your child. But if you're a guy like me and I say, well, what's the curriculum of Enfield High School? Or what's the curriculum of middle school? What sciences are being offered and how many students are in each class? And what's being taught there? And where are they getting their curriculum content from? How are they designing their lessons? I don't know, I may be incorrect, but every school, well, I won't be incorrect by this statement, every school system I was in, we wrote our own curriculum. Do the Enfield teachers write their own curriculum? And if not, why not? Because you are in the classroom, you need to control your curriculum, not the state of Connecticut. And when I was in one subcommittee meeting a couple of years ago, I was told I couldn't speak, so I listened carefully. And the person defending curriculum from the federal government, which I disagreed with, I sat there and asked Guillermo Salazar, who was the Board of Education, who invited me. He said, I can't say anything. And I thought to myself, that's federal curriculum. That needs to be challenged. Every curriculum needs to be challenged. As I said, the rubber meets the road in high school, and I don't see transparency in our subcommittees.
Okay. Well, Kelsey McGuire, who is on the Board of Education and also a teacher, we're actually lucky to have several members of the Board of Education here tonight. So she's going to be able to perhaps give you some additional information. But I do know their subcommittee meetings are open to the public. I know there's not public comment per se, but they are open to the public. And I appreciate what you're saying, but it does sound a little like there is some transparency. It's just not necessarily everything that you agree with what's happening, but which is absolutely your opinion and you're right. So Kelsey might be able to shed some more light.
So just a couple of things. I don't know if I'll be able to answer all of your questions, but I'm going to try. The one thing that Mayor Sakala said is our subcommittee meetings are open to the public. We do post those minutes on our website, and you're welcome to attend any of those. There is no public comment during those. However, there is then public comment within our Board of Education meetings. But as far as curriculum goes, I did want to just jump in and mention, we agree, as a teacher and as a parent, I would love to see our curriculum visible on our website for more transparency. For someone who is not in the classroom and like you said yourself, not sure exactly what the curriculum looks like. We are working on that. In our budget this year, there is a position for someone who's going to be able to build our website better, if you will, where it will have a platform and access to our curriculum. To answer your question, we obviously follow Common Core state standards. The Common Core standards are available online, but the specific programs we use and the map of the standards in which direction we're going and alignment, those kind of things will hopefully be visible for you on the website in the near-ish future, I would say within the next year or so. That was most of your questions. And as far as where our curriculum comes from, our curriculum is our standards, and those are the Common Core standards. The programs in which we use, some of those are because we are an Alliance district, some of those were choices that we picked through the Alliance district. There was a number of choices that teachers vetted. There was pilot programs and things like that, like for example, our new reading curriculum. So I hope that answers some of your questions, and feel free to reach out if I didn't answer them all. I'm happy to continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Golis. Anyone else? Thank you very much, Kelsey.
So I just had 2 points that that you mentioned that I wanted to touch upon just for the public's interest. So first is salaries. So I know you had mentioned that no teacher in Enfield is different from a teacher in Suffield, but there's an important thing to consider here, and I think it's continual in the private sector as well. What we're paying our teachers impacts the amount of applicants that we get for that position. And so if our starting salary is significantly lower than neighboring districts, you're going to get a significantly lower number of applicants. And that impacts talent, that impacts turnover, and that's going to affect the outcome of education for our kids. Because if you have teachers that are routinely starting in our district and they're moving to another district for a higher salary, that impacts the town of Enfield, and it happens routinely. Some people joke in Suffield that Suffield is like the West Campus of Enfield High because the amount of teachers that we have lost to Suffield, and the same could be said in the true of Summers. We have a lot of teachers from Enfield there. There's a tangible impact to that. And secondly is the sales tax. Unfortunately, under state statute, the municipalities are not allowed to add a supplementary sales tax on top of the state mandated, I think it's 6.35%. So that would be something that I would encourage you to reach out to your state delegation for, because that's something I think would be beneficial, especially for communities like Enfield where we have such a high commercial tax base, is to offload some of that financial burden to them, but it's just something that we as a council have no control over.
Thank you, Councilor Zanoni. Go ahead, sir.
It's not on.
Make sure it's on and then hold it closed.
After the vote.
You can use this one.
Okay, all right. After the vote. Look, I just want to say right off front that I thought the town manager and the school superintendent budget presentations were exemplary. They were just full of rich detail and answered a lot of questions. That said, I do have some issues or questions and a couple suggestions. You know, the takeaway on the budget was a $300,000 homelessy taxes rising over 9%. To $7,200. The median income in our town is $90,000. So that puts a tax burden of roughly 8% of gross income for a typical household. I think we have to consider the fact that that's becoming a real strain for people out of the local median. I'm not even talking about fixed income. The other problem here is the town budget is increasing 5%, but the tax rate's going up 9%. In the past, grandless growth has helped in some years. In 2021, for instance, we had a 5.5% budget increase, but there was no tax increase that year because the grandless picked up the slack. What is happening this year is suggestive of a deep shift. Residential taxpayers are picking up a larger share of the burden. And looking ahead, the pressures may grow. Now, I'm inclined to support the school board referendum, but that's between that and the roads that we need, it's about 120 million, 110 million in bonding, and that will carry some very significant long-term cost. I'd like to be able to vote with my eyes open and know exactly what I'm getting into here. So what I would like for the council to do is to project what the mill rate might be in fiscal years 29 and 30 under the full bond program before any authorization vote. So in other words, this is going to increase our expenses. So the floor on which we're dealing with is going to rise. And we need to know how much that's going to rise by. And we also need to know how our projected debt burden compares with other Connecticut towns. The revaluation isn't going to help on many of these things. But put together, I think, from my perspective, taxes may be approaching a point of unaffordability for a median income household. And again, that's $90,000. Now, to be fair, over the past decade, budget growth has roughly tracked to the Social Security COLA, and that's a very strong positive for a community. But we're now entering, I think, a very difficult period. And we may not be able to rely on commercial development in the way that we once did to offset our residential taxes. So I'd like to suggest a couple of things. First, reconsider accessory dwelling units, all right? These give homeowners a practical way to generate income and manage rising taxes. ADUs were rejected in part because Enfield sees itself as a town of single-family homes. But our demographics have changed. Our school population is less than half of what it was when I graduated Enfield High in '72. We need to address the fact that taxes and inflation are hollowing out the financial security of people living in low-kept homes. At the same time, much of our housing stock is now 60 to 70 years old. That's true for the newer residential developments like Southern Acres, right? These homes need upgrades, and many homeowners are facing major costs, including moving off oil heat. ADUs could help offset those pressures. Second, we should revisit zoning regulations to encourage condominium development. One way to do that is to reduce density for rental apartments while allowing greater density for owner-occupied condominiums. Condos work. I own one and served on a condo board. They reduce the tax burden per unit, improve energy efficiency, and most importantly, create ownership opportunities for younger residents while giving older residents a way to downsize and stay in town. From a personal perspective, unlike many others, I spent my career elsewhere and came back to help family. I have friends who have done the same. We've reestablished our roots here, but we're left with high-cost homes and no small ownership options. They simply do not exist. The rental housing boom only serves part of the market. Many people will eventually have no choice but to leave this town because the economics no longer work. The problem you face is extraordinarily complex, and I don't envy you at all. But great challenges require bold thinking. I have faith that you'll figure out ways to lead both Republicans and Democrats in a direction that strengthens us in positive ways.
Thank you so much. Response? Okay. We appreciate it. And we appreciate some of your suggestions as well. I know I was writing notes while I heard Councilor Matthews tapping away on her computer.
Hi, Kanan. Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. We rarely see you in this end of town, but it's a great end of town, and we're welcoming you. Karen LaPlante. I live just down the street at 166 North Maple Street. On a crumbling foundation, but it's gone now, and they're working on it. So my house is the one raised up down the street. So I'm a little bit disarray. The website for the town lists, usually when a new town council comes in, they list their goals and their objectives. And I don't know if the new goals and objectives you've chosen have not been updated on the website, or if this website is actually from 2016. These goals have remained the same since 2016. So it was hard to tell what your goals actually are. But one of the goals is talking about the quality of life. And when you click on that link, it says the topics were creation of a community center, additional bicycle pedestrian paths, expand greenways, walkways, riverfront recapture, and outdoor concerts and events. Now, from my calculation, these goals sound wonderful. The only issue is it does mention 2016 for the community center, which I don't think we have yet, except we are using the annex for things. And maybe these are long-term goals, 10-year goals. Okay, it's 2026. Let's continue to do some of these things. But how many things have been done? Not to my knowledge on the community center. Additional bike and pedestrian paths. There's been some bike paths on Town Farm Road and South Road, and some of the pedestrian paths, when they redo the streets, they do the sidewalks. I suppose that could qualify. Expand greenways and walkways. Again, I don't think any greenways have been expanded. As a member of the Conservation Commission, I don't know of any open space that's been purchased. Riverfront recapture, that was the Bob Tangway deal that fell through when we lost the deal with Amtrak. They didn't want to allow us to cross the railroad tracks, and then that money was spent somewhere else. And the outdoor concerts and events, hey, we have a band shell. So that's like 3 out of 5 have not been done. So I guess I'd like to see your goals updated if these are the goals. some of the goals on the quality of life issues, that would be great. The riverfront recapture was part of that Connecticut River Access Project, and that was no longer available. Since the available riverfront has been mostly sold to developers, let me just turn the page here. And the planning department, in conjunction with the Planning and Zoning Commission, has changed the zone along the riverfront to allow developers to build a profitable project. Let's consider the Connecticut riverfront not recaptured, and let's move on from that. I would like the council to concentrate on saving the Scannick River Greenway from further development. Staff has recently been at ART meetings on one particular parcel along the Scannick River that wants to develop houses after removing about 1 million cubic feet of sand and gravel. Now, it maybe hasn't even reached your radar yet, but these are escarpment slopes, and that was tried once before, and it was already stopped, so I don't know why they're even talking about it. But one of the staff members I heard at the ART meeting said this sounds like a wonderful project. So let's all speak the same language. If it's been told it's not doable in the past, why are we promoting it? We cannot assume this land will remain in its natural and undeveloped state for our future generations if we don't start saving it. Now the budget. Why does it seem that the simple calculations of Social Security and Medicare costs always prop up in my mind as questionable? I did a spreadsheet this year to check the numbers because each department, the numbers are off. There's a straight percentage for Social Security and a straight percentage for Medicare. That's the employer has to pay. I believe members of town government's employees can opt out of Social Security and Medicare. And I believe by looking at the numbers, the police department has pretty much opted out of that because they're like $765,000 short in collecting for Social Security and Medicare, or paying that, budgeting for that number. Certain departments maybe didn't even know how to calculate these figures, as public works categories have over budgeted by $35,000. So that might be a place where you can cut the budget by just correcting those numbers. Social services is over 5,000 over budgeted, and election workers are $6,700 over budgeted. And I was reading somewhere that election workers, if they make under a certain amount, they don't even have to pay Social Security and Medicare. So there are other amounts that don't appear to calculate properly, but the total over budgeted is over $57,000 in just specific departments. And again, I wasn't able to check the numbers on the police department because they're just way too off. I think an explanation needs to be set up for that. The Agricultural Commission would like to start preserving smaller local farms, yet we haven't had any money put into our fund. There are state and federal grants available to put easements on farmland and keep farmland farmland. There are states that are purchasing farmland, putting easements on the farmland, and then reselling it to new farmers to purchase. This is a way to prevent more solar farms on our prime farmland soils. I have noticed the public side of the GIS appears to be now updated to a newer version. Thank goodness. We've been waiting forever to get that updated. I don't know if it's complete, I don't know if it's accurate, but I want to thank staff for finally getting that done, whoever did that. For utilities, Hazardous Water is in for a rate increase right now, and I don't know if the final decision has come down yet, but I hope you budgeted that in your numbers for utilities. And Connecticut Water has also notified Pura and the towns that will be affected that they will be raising their rates also. Both of these will affect consumptions to the people who who buy their water, which is in the town of Enfield. So you can expect WPC revenues to go down because after they get their first bill, they're going to see how much their water went up, and your WPC will go down in revenue. So you should really watch for that. And that's it. Thank you all, and I hope you are very fair to all of us taxpayers.
Thank you very much, Karen. I know Matt may be able to respond to the Social Security and Medicare piece regarding the website. Ironically, some of those are still our current goals, but it does sound like the website needs to be updated because we did, as a council, do a goal-setting workshop a couple of weeks ago. So what is old is new. Ironically, the quality of life issues are still some of our priorities, but we can try to work on updating that website. But Matt, I don't know if, to put you on the spot, if you have a response to the...
Not a problem.
Thank you.
So you are correct, police officers do not pay Social Security. Because they have a pension plan, and back in the 70s, actually, when governments had to choose, the choice was made for the police officers to go into pension and not Social Security. The number you're probably not taking into consideration to pay is overtime. And so that is the issue. And so that gets lumped in at a base.
I did consider, I took the salary number in each department, not on the line item, but where it said how many workers would be doing, and then the overtime was included in that number. So I'll give you the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You can look at it.
Well, knowing that that's the adjustment that's made though.
Yeah.
So, because in the way that the system actually calculates it, it's not any employees, it's the financial system that does that. And what it doesn't calculate is the overtime. And then another number just to mess even more with that is, if an employee is getting some type of stipend or anything else that might be taxable, that also matters.
Yeah.
So there are a number of
Hi, Karen. I just had one clarifying question for you. You had mentioned conservation grants, state grants maybe? Are you, I didn't really understand where you were going with that. Are you saying that those are grants that we are eligible for, that we're not taking advantage of?
There are state and federal grants available to purchase, not only purchase farmland, but also purchase easements on farmland, on existing farmland. So we could do it a number of ways. If somebody just wants out of farming altogether, we could purchase at a reasonable fee, the land, say what the farmer would get if he sold it to a developer or somewhere in there. And then we could put the easement on it as a town and get that money from American Farmland Trust or some of the other federal grants that are out there for that. And then we could resell it. So basically, it's costing us the difference between the easement money that we get and the cost of the original purchase. So it will cost us some money, but it won't cost us, and we don't have to hang on to the land. We can resell it and not have to worry about managing it or anything. And the easements could be managed by a specific entity. And it could be the Land Trust, the Northern Connecticut Land Trust, or the maybe the American Farmland Trust too.
So you have the specific information?
I do have some new information. I don't have it with me.
And do you have a council liaison?
Nope.
You do not?
No.
Would you like to send me some of that information, please?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be great. I'd like to talk to you about this.
Okay.
When we're done, I'd like to make a statement. So I just want to hear what everybody else has to say.
Anyone else have anything to say? Mr. Cremona?
I good evening. I'm Tom Corona, 19 Tyler Road, which is part of this neighborhood, so welcome to the neighborhood. It is meaningful to have you here, so thank you for doing this. I'm sorry, I apologize for being late, so I missed the rules of the road. I have two comments, both very general. Just go ahead and make it.
There really isn't any rules, well, I mean, there are rules, but there's no time limit rules, and this is a back and forth, so
Okay.
whatever you need.
You just can't sing and dance.
What's up?
There's no singing and dancing.
No singing and
Oh,
dancing.
come on,
That's
Marie.
what- Marie, that was Marie's rule, just so you know, I didn't write that in my
I want to
rules.
see you sing and dance,
Oh,
that's
we
all.
want to see you, Marie.
Okay, so my first question, like I said, is pretty general, but I have the presentation that was done from the town manager Tuesday night, which again, I agree, I thought it was exceptional. There's something in that presentation that I really want to make sure I understand. There's a recommendation, and it just reads, I'll read it right here, it says, proposed usage of fund balance in calendar year 2027, $5 million. And I actually tried to listen to it twice to make sure I got it straight. And what I think I heard is that the usage of that $5 million would bring the fund balance down to about 7. I also heard, that's not right? That's not right?
It's not necessarily right, because there's an allocated and unallocated piece
that I think you might be confusing, but you can
Okay.
continue and, or
Well, you know what?
if Matt's right there.
Yeah.
15 million is what is out there, that is up here to 90%.
Yeah.
If that's, it's the 90%, so 90% of the remaining fund balance is locked in 10%. So that left, $12 million.
Okay, so I think you just answered what my real question was going to be, which is I was very concerned that that $5 million might cause our bond rating to be impacted. And that is my question.
Correct.
It does not impact the bond rating?
If you get down to 5 million, yes,
Yeah.
but the way that he's proposing it,
Just as an aside, in general, many budgets are use of the fund balance is used to balance or not balance, but we use some fund balance every budget season. That being said, I think that the total fund balance, and then there's the unallocated and what we're going to use for certain projects and CIP and things like that. So if you go under a certain percentage, which, what did you say was 9%, then we would have a problem with the bond rating. But we're not going under that.
Okay, using the $5 million does not bring us under 9%.
correct.
Excellent. Great. Perfect. Thank you.
And so effectively, we will have $22 million in the bank. That's 15 that's reserved, and the incremental 7 that is in case of we need to use it for something else.
Great, thank you. All right. Second, very different subject. And again, I apologize because I'm a little nervous it may have come up already. But again, specifically here in this section of town, last time review valuation presidential section had their property values increase faster than other sections of the town. And so the share, or piece of the pie, went up quite a bit. And so our taxes on our properties went higher because of that. What I'm trying to understand is, in general, the proposed budget for 2027, I find myself supporting it, but I find myself really struggling, not understanding what my tax bill is going to do without knowing about the evaluation. And so I thought about that, and then I said, how can the council be able to present information to the taxpayers without knowing about revaluation while you're doing the budget? And I know the timing is terrible, but I think that's correct. That you have to, yeah, you have to reach budget before you get revaluation. And so, in my last comment, which is, if there's any way to pressure the firm that's doing the revaluation work, and I see them in my neighborhood, their cars have been around, I filled out my form, you know, I get it. But But if there's some way to at least get a sense, like as a homeowner in this section of town, I'm on board for mine will probably be close to $700 if this is passed. But I need to know the plus what on top of that.
The new grand list will be certified. The new grand list will be certified next spring for the budget that we'll do next May. So the grand list has already been certified for this budget year, and it will not be recertified until February of 2027 for the next budget that we consider, okay? And the other thing that I will say, because you are right about certain newer neighborhoods being disproportionate increases, we have large sections of our town that are ripe for redevelopment. And what? I'm sorry, I'm getting yelled at for not having the microphone close enough to my mouth. You know, to Mr. Thibodeau's comment about growing the grand list, when we talk about redeveloping a neighborhood like Thompsonville, the benefit to you is that there is higher property value in a depressed part of town that minimizes or mitigates the pressure on the presidential section and other neighborhoods. You know, one of the things that is the third leg of the stool is the grand list and our ability to grow it. And so as we talk about large projects like what's going on North River Street, what's happening in other parts of Thompsonville, the mall, other developments that may follow from that. Remember, the mall was once the 5th largest contributor to the grand list in the town of Enfield, 62 acres. It's now not even in the top 200, right? And the burden of all that tax revenue, of all that tax, has fallen onto every homeowner in the community. So it is important that as we talk about redevelopment, that people understand that unless we are able to redevelop and grow this, it's very difficult to minimize the impact on everyday homeowners, working families, and people who are on fixed incomes. So I just think that it's important for people to understand that. The annex, you know, we wanted to hold on to that building for a lot of emotional reasons. It's done us no good. It's costing us $1 million a year. And to put that in the context of your mill rate, that's $0.25 mil just to have the annex there, doing nothing, right? So we need to be doing a better job, and I think we are trying to do a better job at finding uses for these buildings, finding options that will grow the grand list. I do want to make one comment about school modernization. And Mr. Thibodeau was right. There's going to be a period of time where it is going to impact us. It'll be ebbing and flowing as we issue new debt to pay for the new schools. I want to impress upon people, this is the least expensive option to build new schools in the community. As painful as some people may find it, the alternative is going to be much, much worse. And it is a symptom of a problem where we have just not maintained facilities to the level that we need to. And this is a big issue for us, that we build a $150 million high school and we have no money to replace the light bulbs that are now about to go out. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I find that really disrespectful to the taxpayers who paid to build that building, to not have any money saved to do that basic maintenance on the building. And that is us writing a check for $100,000, $200,000 to replace light bulbs. we have to plan for maintenance. We have to maintain all of the buildings that we have. Because I assure you, and you know this from just your house, if you don't keep up with it, it's inevitably twice as much to fix stuff that you don't. And I have a 245-year-old house. Let me tell you, I understand, as do you, right? That if you don't keep up with it, it's inevitably that much more expensive when you really have to make those repairs. So just a couple of those comments.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is in regard to still talking about the school modernization program and talking about the projected debt service. I do have all of the information in regard to debt service. Being a member of this committee, this was something that was given to us by finance, and we have it broken down as to what all of our debt is within the town, what all the projections are. And also we have a sheet here talking about total projected cost, the state share and the town share. The state share is 82.5% as compared to the town share of only 12.5%. And so we're looking at $420 million over the course of between 2027 and 2034, and the town share would be 89 million. So when Deputy Mayor Santinello was talking about the difference, what the state is going to be offering and what the town is, this is a very good deal that we're getting. And I do have it broken down as to mill rate impact and what the tax impact is starting in 2028, because that's when these projects would start going here. For example, I'm just going to rattle this off, that in the year 2028-29, the mill rate impact is going to be 0.27, which would be a tax impact of approximately $47. So I have this all written out. If, I should have probably made copies to give to everybody tonight, but if anybody is interested in obtaining this information, I would be glad to distribute it to everybody, because I think it's very important for us to know this information. Actually, having that blower really gave probably more of an impact of the work that needs to be done in the school. So I had no issue with that. I call it a little noise. So I have no issue with that. But in regard to information, in regard to debt and previous projects with debt and what is going to be the cost to taxpayers throughout the years. And I have information that was already, from 2028 projections to 2058. I know I'm not going to be on the council at 2058, so, well, no, I won't be. So, but I just wanted to share that information because I know Mr. Thibodeau is right on top of things, and I just wanted to share that with him tonight. So if you're interested in this information, contact me and I'll be glad to give it to you. Thank you.
Mr. Kimona, did you have your questions answered, or you did? Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And as a member of Hazardville, like living just really close by, it is wonderful to come to this side of town to talk to the town councilors. I just wanted to mention, I was really here just to listen. It's been really fascinating to hear the different concerns. But just to talk to Mr. Santinella's comments about the annex, I really feel that in a town of Enfield size and all of the different needs of the community, when I think of a community center, I think of the annex. As somebody who lives in Hazardville, as a mother of school children, as somebody who's active in the community in different organizations, I can't think of like another place for a lot of the events and organizations that use that facility. So I just want to think about, instead of like the Enfield Annex being a drain on the system and such a burden, I think it suffers from an identity crisis. I think many people in the town don't know all of the amazing things happening in the annex, from an arts and culture angle, from athletic fields, from our only existing swimming pool, where people can access swimming lessons, a life-saving skill to be able to swim, summer camp, the recreation department, ESL classes and adult ed, enrichment classes from adult ed, so many different things, and that's not even counting the police training, the fields. There's so many different ways that the annex is serving our community in a vibrant way without clear leadership or vision. And I think having somebody in charge of that sort of identity of what is the annex and how is it already serving our community, it should be celebrated. What's the cost of us building a new community center? I have a lot of respect for Alcorn and what that does for the community and the youth and family services there, and we go to events there. But what's on this side of the town? And it would be so expensive, I would imagine, to create a community center and with, thus the access to pools. So I just wanted to say that, I think in a lot of ways, people are like, oh my gosh, Fermi is just decaying. And you're right, the amount of maintenance for our schools and our buildings has to be budgeted for it. We have to take care of it. But we should also think about what we're already using, what we have. And it's really thriving. There's so many organizations that have their home there. And maybe we can fine tune things and look at it, but I think it can't be denied. It is really doing an important function in the community. And I just think that a lot of people don't realize a lot of the great things that we already have at the annex. So I just wanted to say that. And also thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I 100% agree. As president of Opera House Players, yes, we have Merrily We Roll Along going up at the Annex in May. That's just shameless plug for all of you. But yes, I absolutely agree. And as someone who has grown up in this town, and I used to live on Pleasant Street in Thompsonville, as most of you know, I am the director of Enfield Loaves and Fishes. That's right there. I used to be right next door to Lamagna. And I was devastated when that building came down and that pool came out for all those neighborhood kids. They have absolutely nothing to do now. At least we have the annex that has, swimming lessons for these kids. My son took babysitting courses over there. Recreation's in there as well. I mean, I think that you're absolutely right. There isn't enough over here on this side of town that is something like a community center for people to gather at. And honestly, if we didn't have it, I don't know where any of these activities would be, probably out of town. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got it.
Sure.
I don't know, I guess we're standing.
I'm just waiting.
All right, so first thing is, I agree with the technology enhancement. We need Wi-Fi. I had to change my whole plan. Everything I thought was available to me was not. So let me start right from the beginning. Gary Young, I appreciate you guys doing this. This is absolutely a great way for the community to get a chance to talk about our concerns, you hear us, and then provide feedback, right? I mean, this is definitely genuine and it makes a big difference. So thank you very much for being away from your families, your homes, to be here. Because we're here, so it's a value add that you're doing this, so thank you. As far as transparency, I got a few topics, so I'll go with this first. So transparency, posting the meeting to the Facebook page, home run. I've been a person that's spoken of transparency many times in the council, even with the fire districts, and we know that the local newspaper is not the way to connect with the families, right? We're all technology now, so thank you very much. Thank you for posting. I know you're trying to do the best you can. We're not all social media wizards, but something's better than nothing, so thank you. As far as posting the budget updates, I did have some questions. I did get a chance to see the post was put up on the town manager page. I'm throwing this out there as a potential thought. To the point of presentation, right? The timeline is quick. There is not a lot of time for everything to be available to the residents. for us to look at it, for you to start your discussions, and then for the decisions to be made. So what I propose would be something as simple as, can we just get a budget link on the homepage that would direct everybody to all the detail? Because there's going to be a lot of detail shared over the course of the next 30 days, 60 days, and it would be wonderful to have it all in one spot. So you started it? Yeah, perfect, okay. The next thing would be links to the department presentations. So last year, the departments did a great job, mic to the mouth, kind of. Last year, the presentations that were provided to the residents were very helpful. They gave us the opportunity to see the detail and the thought process behind the department leads, but it was very difficult to find them later. And having to go, now all of a sudden my signal works, I get a phone call. It's crazy. But it would definitely make it easier. So as far as the department presentations, if we could get a schedule. I did look on the website, I do see the agenda, I see the meeting, but I don't see the departments yet listed, and I think that would be great for folks that are interested in the budget for the school system, for example. That's going to be a very large one. The safety, right? The police department, the town public works, all of that, which I did notice in the budget quickly. All of those departments are looking for an increase, which does impact the budget. It's going to impact our pocket. So it'd be great to see that detail. All right, let's see here. The council deliberations, I do not recall from last year, so maybe you can refresh my memory, but I thought that council deliberations were available to the public online. We weren't able to be present, but we were able to at least be able to watch and be able to understand our council member representation. This is what he or she thought about that particular expenditure, just to give us an idea of how our council members feel about those particular topics. I didn't remember if that was available, but I figured I'd put it out there. Okay. Now I'm moving to budget concerns specifically. So the valuation and tax burden, this gentleman brought that up. That was one of the things that I was worried about, so I thank you for explaining a little bit of that, because I too had the car stop in front of the house and take pictures, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a criminal now. Here we come. But in all reality, I understand what the gentleman's doing. I understand what they're doing, but I'm worried because I don't know what's going to happen with the valuation. It was 21, I think, right? 2021. And if there's an increase on that, and there's an increase on the mill rate, then it's not $500. It's potentially a lot more, and that's what I was worried about. So again, thank you for helping us a little bit more on that part of it, because I suspect there's a lot of other people that are not sure how that truly works. So those little pieces of information maybe can be added to that budget page, if you will. All right, so now I move on to how does this impact me? And I'm just going to be honest here. I'm looking at potentially $8,000 a year in property tax. Our two children have now grown and graduated, so they're out of the school system. However, two things come to mind for me as a taxpayer. One, the education, which I'm hearing is going to be a large impact, potentially, to my pocket and to my tax burden. And the other is safety. So let's speak to the education first. The value of my home does not go anywhere, and it definitely goes in the wrong direction if we don't have education. That's a proven fact. I hate to turn around and put it as simple as that, but if you look at the towns across the country and you start tying numbers together, the values of the homes are directly impacted by the ratings of the school system. So, as someone who doesn't have kids in the school system anymore, I'm trying to be careful here because it's a catch-22, right? I'm stuck in the middle. I want to make sure the value of the home is there. I understand the requirement to make sure that the school system stays where it needs to be and in fact enhances, but I also want to be very cautious and hope that everybody looks at those numbers and says, we just can't blatantly write a check, because I can't write a check in my home either. So that's why I asked about those deliberations. I want to truly understand what our council representation thinks about how those checks are written. So that takes care of that. And again, another plug for Wi-Fi. We need technology. All right, now I move on to the safety topic. So, I ironically just sent an email earlier today. I have been talking with the council since 2022, roughly, looking for safety concerns, traffic calming in my area, and a sidewalk. So it looks like in 2027, the section that I live on will finally have a sidewalk and updated. I saw that in the presentation. So, and I did not see that at the time I sent the email, but I went through this afternoon after work and I was able to see that. So I feel so much better about that part of it. Many of the other residents will as well. So, in addition to that, I've also been talking about traffic calming projects and helping our police better solve for the 93 states that Chief Fox has mentioned is a problem in our town. We drive every day. It is not easy for, it's not difficult for us to see that nobody drives with the courtesy and the respects that we need, okay? However, when you live on a street that has become a cut-through and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour and people will do 60, and if you are doing the speed limit, they will pass during bus pickup times on the double yellow with no sidewalk and kids sitting at the edge of the driveway. That's a problem. I don't know how we fix it, but I'm going to put it back out there again. I have heard from the council that yes, it's a concern. We understand what you're saying. I can tell you I have all the safety, public safety meeting minutes with me. Abbey Road is not on any of them. And that's disturbing to me because there's a lot of other things on there. There's a crosswalk for Dollar General on there. There's other items on there, but Abbey Road is not on there. The other 93 streets are not on there. Traffic calming is not on there. The police department has a trailer on Elm Street. It's dead. Mr. Crusade, you and I have spoken about that trailer. 2 years later, why does the police department not have the proper equipment to monitor traffic and determine, are these 93 streets that we are talking about and we're hearing from residents, are they truly a problem? We have to work with the police department. I don't know where we're at with it, but public safety meetings in my street's not on there and other streets are not on there is a problem. So that has to be addressed. I think that's it for now, actually. I had a couple other items on there, but I'm going to wait until the meetings begin, and then maybe I can reach out to some of you folks specifically. But I do, again, appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if I could just jump in real quick, the last item he was talking about in terms of the 93. So when, that's been something that I know has been discussed for the last 8 months that I've been here. About the 93. And one of the things that I do is I keep challenging our staff that, the answer isn't we have all these problems. The answer is how do we solve all these problems, right? And to that end, and I think council is aware of this, we started up a local road safety committee. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. Something like that. And we are actually looking at all those 93, and I think we've had 2 or 3 meetings already. And what I challenge them is, okay, so let's understand exactly what those problems are. Are they speed problems? Are they design problems? Are they, habit problems? People just don't know how to drive. And Sergeant Meyer, who is our traffic officer in charge of that bureau, has been working very diligently to find a way to start prioritizing each one of those issues. Because my goal is to give council solutions. Now, you may not like those solutions, right? Some of those solutions may be very expensive, but I think we as staff owe it to you as residents and to the council to give them actionable things to do. And like I said, some of them are millions of dollars probably, tens of millions, I mean, I know one of them, it's tens of millions of dollars, right? But they should have the right to say, no, we're not going to do that. And so you would have the right to know, here's what the solution could be, but, we can't afford it, or, whatever the rationale is. And so we are working very diligently to get that. And again, I don't think we're going to have good solutions for some of them, Elm Street being one. But I think, we'll have those the council can at least look at and say, yeah, we like to do this, or no, we don't, or hey, we have to start saving money to do those things.
No, I appreciate it. I think probably, if I may quickly speak to that. So, and I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns right now is I'm a resident that is willing to spend some more money and cut my internal budget expenses because I feel it's the right thing to do. But when I've been raising this particular concern along with other residents for a lengthy amount of time, and I don't mean months, I mean years, because I went back today and looked at all my notes, 2021 late, middle of 2022 is when I began showing up at the council meetings. And every time I hear, we understand, we're doing something about it, but I'm continuing to hear the same feedback that, it's not in the budget. We can't spend the money. I do not want our town to be the example again of what happened in East Windsor when a poor young teenager with no sidewalk ends up being killed because something wasn't done. And now they've done exactly what we were looking for. East Windsor patrols that section. If you drive up and down that area, guaranteed you're going to see at least 2 or 3 different East Windsor police patrols consistently by that area. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more patrol potentially in the meantime, or something that helps the police truly understand when is the traffic pattern a problem here. I mean, I work from home, I see it. I can tell you when the pattern is. But if they're looking for technology, we have to be able to help them with it. So, thank you.
Mr. Young, I just wanted to address some comments that you made in the beginning of your comments. And I think I want to clarify the relationship between valuation, the budget, and mill rate. So the budget, the mill rate is a percentage of the percentage of the budget, and based on the grand list. So if our budget doesn't change and the value of your house doubles, the mill rate would be cut in half, right? I just want to make sure that we're clear. So the fear of just because your property value is going up doesn't automatically mean that your taxes are going up proportionately. It's likely, if the budget doesn't go crazy, it's a smaller percentage, right? That's the thing. I mean, if we put last time we did valuation, if we kept the mill rate the same, we pretty much could have wiped out a lot of stuff, but we all would have gone broke in the interim. So I just wanted to clarify that relationship for people. Okay.
Cindy, did you have something, or did he answer it?
Thank you for your comments. I just want to address the public safety issue. Our town manager summed it up very nicely. We do have regular public safety subcommittee meetings. In fact, Councilor Matthews and our town manager, assistant town manager, police chief, we were all together yesterday discussing the very heart of what your concerns are. We do have some serious traffic issues going on in Enfield. We have ideas on how to make it better. So it's not falling on deaf ears. It is being addressed. Unfortunately, it does take some time. It does take manpower, and we are trying to build on what we have to make it better. So please understand that we're not dismissing but rather being a little more proactive. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young, just so I wrote a couple of things down, a budget link on the homepage. Town manager said that's going to happen. A link to the department presentations. Those will be televised, so those will also be up. They start on Monday. And as soon as we have a schedule, go ahead.
It's working?
Yep.
So preview is that Monday night, so on the 13th, we're going to have the police department, we'll have EMS, libraries, library, IT, I think that's who that's, yeah, library, senior center, right. On Wednesday, which is the 15th, we will have the social services, public works, and a discussion on the WPC. And so that first agenda should be posted tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. And deliberations are open to the public.
Thank you, Jean.
Yep.
So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came out tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here. Ray, 100% agree with the Social Security end of it. I am a retired gal as well as my husband, living on a fixed income, and we do need to look at this budget and see what it's going to do to our retired folks. Mr. Thibodeau, 100% agree with condos. I'd like to see more condos built in Enfield because I do think it's a great option for our seniors that are trying to downsize houses, because some of us don't want to go to the over 55s with all the restrictions. I do disagree with the ADUs. I think the ADUs would be a strain on our infrastructure. So I've never been a proponent of them, and they're just not something I think our town really would like to support, in my opinion. Karen, I am always thrilled to hear what you have to say. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I have phoned you numerous times. And I really appreciate how you protect our precious land in this town. So thank you. And I am so happy to hear that there could be grants that we can purchase our conservation land with. And thank you to Councilor Matthews for offering your support and help on that. Tom, you asked the same question I was going to actually ask with looking at the fund balance. I was getting a little nervous on that myself, so thank you for asking that. I got it clarified. Emily, I agree too. We do need a good community center, just not 100% sure it's going to be the annex. But I do agree we need that. But we have to weigh the pros and cons out. Gary? Yes. I agree too. If we don't have a good school system, our property values fail. So with that, I'd like to put my resident hat on. I want to take my counselor hat off, and I want to put my resident hat on. And I want to speak as a resident who's lived in Enfield for 70 years. I'm a Thompsonville girl. I've lived through urban renewal. I was 14 when they started knocking down Thompsonville. When they took the police station out and they moved it to Enfield. And I remember my parents saying, this is the start of something bad. I was 14. All I knew was I was going to get a nice new mall. And I couldn't wait to go get a job there. And I did at 16. I worked at G-Fox. So I have seen many, many changes in this town. From Thompsonville being torn apart, to our precious farmlands being full of solar arrays. But the one thing that has not changed in this town is the people. I believe the best people in the world live in Enfield, Connecticut. Because I've seen them come to the forefront when people are hurting. I've seen them help neighbors. And I've seen them rally when things are bad and come together when things are good. I do think when we look around Enfield, I think most of us will agree, we are a hard-working, blue-collar town. Most of us that have lived here our whole lives, our parents worked in the mills. That's the way we were raised, turning a dime into a dollar, figuring out how to make it work. And I believe those people still exist in this town. And the largest population in Enfield are retired, or what I like to call our working poor. Our young families that are struggling right now, working 2 jobs, struggling with daycare, putting their kids through school, and can't make ends meet. And I hear it every day. Those are the people I want to protect. Those are the people I want to help. And it shows that we have these young families struggling because we have so many children in our school system right now that are on free to reduce lunch. It's not because their parents don't work. It's because their parents are working hard. But the economy is above what they can do. The budget that was proposed, there are parts of it that I can digest, and there's parts of it I can't digest. And I am just hoping that through open deliberations, which, yes, they will be televised, because people need to hear what we say.
So that wasn't decided.
Well, they should be, and I'm going to say it out loud. They should be televised. Because you, the taxpayer, should know how we feel about the budget. I do stand behind our school modernization. I have said it from the beginning, and I will continue to stand with it. However, there has to be a balance with this budget. And we have to take every resident into consideration, because one does not outweigh the other. So I am hoping that we have good, productive deliberations that you can all hear and watch, and that we can come up with a balanced budget that everyone in this town can find palatable. Because what's happening is we are going to push our elderly out of their homes, and our young folks that are struggling to stay in homes are going to become blighted properties because they're not going to be able to afford to upkeep them. So I'm hoping we're all going to work together on that. But again, thank you for all coming out. I do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Marie. Ms. Pfeiffer Hall, I know you had your hand up. Did you have?
Just hold it really close. I think the batteries right now.
Not very good. Hello? Closer.
Closer.
Closer? Closer. Even, I'm going to be sitting there. Really?
Like chocolate milkshake.
Yeah, shake it. Try it. Hello?
Try this one.
Can you hear me? There. Okay. First, I just want to piggyback on what Karen was talking about regarding the Agriculture Farmland Preservation Program. So there are 2 programs. There's a state one and there's a municipal one. And the state one is for larger properties, and we do have some local farms that are in the Farmland Preservation Program statewide. And Town of Enfield, the Agriculture Commission, did form the municipal one, which I think we started when Matt Cobbler was here in his last time. And so we did have one local farmer that was going to participate in the program. Unfortunately, their family decided it wasn't the right thing for them. But I do ask that we have this fund, we have the program, but it needs to be funded. And we have a small amount of money, but it's not enough. And so I would implore you to please put that in your budget deliberations on an annual basis. If you could please add to that fund so that when we do get a local farmer, which I believe they have to have 35 acres?
25 or less.
25 or less. So the state program is for larger farms. And so the Ag Commission is going to be, we're working on another farmland summit, Ag Summit. I'm not sure when it's going to be.
We'd like to get
Maybe
funded.
next year, but we do need funding for that as well. We've had 2 in the past, and they were very successful. We had speakers from all over the state, and we had farm people come from all over the state also. So it was a great program. Keeping on the theme of conservation, years ago we had a kiosk down at the Barnes Boat Launch. We got a grant for that. Unfortunately, and probably, I don't even know how long ago it was, at least 5 years ago, maybe longer, somebody decided to torch it. So it's gone. And we did used to keep a lot of information in there about the river, about invasives and fishing, all kinds of good stuff. So I guess the town is self-insured, except for our kiosk has not been replaced. So please put that on your radar. Potholes. They're all over. I just came in off of North Street. There's a huge crater on the way in here. So, and in my street, Summers Road, from Taylor Road to Moody Road is a disaster. I believe that it's on your list of roads to be repaired or redone. It was done from Moody Road intersection to the Summerstown line, but my section is just horrific. So I'm hoping that is going to be on the list of streets to be done this year. I think it's this year.
What section again?
Summers Road. And sort of continuing on sort of a beautification and community improvement. Trees. I see Long Meadow, I see Suffield. I just saw something in the newspaper. Suffield has a tree replacement program. And I would like to see that become sort of a priority. Conservation Commission did get a grant a few years ago, and we planted a whole pile of trees on Central Street and High Street, and most of them are doing very well, but we have trees all over the place that are dying, that need to be replaced, and important to climate change, to just beautifying our town, and especially in Thompsonville. There's practically no trees down there. Another thing that I would love to see is daffodils. You go to Newport and New York City and other cities, and they have daffodils, and they have daffodil festivals. And I think going down Palumba and Freshwater, we have those medians, which are just, sometimes in the summer, they catch on fire. They just combust. So it would be a great improvement to our commercial district. And lastly, my sort of most important passion here in Hazardville, and I'm sure you're all waiting for it, is the Hazardville Institute, and I implore you to work with us to apply for the CIF grant for this coming round, which is opening up very shortly. We're a shovel-ready project. We've worked long and hard, and we're ready to go, and we would love to finish this project.
Is this for parking specifically?
It's for parking and for completing our building. And
And I also agree with the lady about the annex. I think it's a great asset. And I think the Hazardville Institute would complement it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I got it to work.
Good job.
I did, it just magically worked. 1 second.
Ray, we'll get to you. Was there anyone else who had any comments? I don't want to say for the first time, because that sounds so, but for the first, it sounds very council and very proper, but for the first time. Okay, Ray.
Oh, thank you. I can stand up this time. All right, a couple of things I didn't get a chance to mention because we don't want to ramble too long, but Matt, this is probably a question for you. How many positions in the town and the schools are funded by grants? Are they considered, not the exact part, here's the part you gotta answer. Are they considered full-time employees if they're grant funded? Yeah. Okay, this is something I have an issue with. A number of years I've been in management, a number of different corporations, and as a consultant. And if you weren't part of the permanent budget, you were probably a contractor. And I think we could probably, and I'm not trying to beat down on anybody here, but should they be considered as contractors? Because what happens when the grant runs out? Do they get laid off? Like we had 70 staff members in the school system a couple of years ago? What do we do? How do we manage that? And in that case, if they are a contractor, here's where we can save some bucks. They don't get benefits. They get paid a rate that can allow them to purchase what they need for health care and put aside into their retirement funds. That's how contracting works in the private sector. Now, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, I'm just looking at things from the eyes of a person that worked in corporate America. All right, talk about the budget. Do you have a tendency to look at it all year or just during budget season? All year? Okay, thank you. Now, Matt, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, we were together for the first time for the Board of Education budget. And I'll admit, I didn't see all the presentation, but do you break it down by what Enfield would pay, what we get from the state grants, federal grants, and private grants, which would give you the total BOE budget? Because I cannot believe the budget that we have is 100% funded by Enfield taxpayers. So that's something I would like to see. Is it broken down? Okay, thanks. Great. All right. That's pretty much it, except I would appreciate some sidewalks on Washington Road.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Well, I mean, I would open it up to if any counselors have any comments or have anything to answer, anything to add? No?
Just thank you.
Thank you.
Very valuable.
Yes, so I will speak for everybody by thanking everyone who was here. Just a couple of important dates, and I know they will all go on the website. 4/22 is the public hearing. That'll be more of a formal sort of presentation from the town manager, and you'll see the Board of Education piece as well. And then you'll be able to come up, and if you have any specific comments on that, you can speak to those comments. But that's a little bit of a more formal presentation and night than tonight. Budget presentations start Monday. They are Monday night and Wednesday night. Those will be televised. Thursday night will also be a budget presentation if we need it. We may not need it. And then end of April into May, we do our deliberations. So those are some dates for all of you. I mean, I think some of my last comments are, you know, if you look around and you hear everyone just in this room tonight, you hear a lot of different priorities, different concerns, where, you know, you may have a different priority than your neighbor, or you may have a different concern than someone across town. And the 11 of us on the council have to take all of those different priorities that you have, all of those different concerns that you have, and we have to put it into this one bucket and figure out what we're going to do. And it is very difficult. It is not easy. It is not a, I'm going to say, fun exercise. Some people probably love budgeting and all that fun stuff, yeah, right. But we do it, and we will continue to work very hard on it. But it just, as a good example of all of the things that we have to look at just in this room, just tonight, with the 8 or so people that talked, you hear a lot of different priorities that different people have that we have to take into account when we look at this budget and see where we can cut if we can. So thank you again, and enjoy your evening, and you know, look around at the school, and you will have a eye-opening experience on why the school modernization referendum will need to pass.
Don't blow too hard.
Thank you.